Hi, good evening. This is Hassan Dossani. Welcome to SBL Prepare to Pass session day 5. How are you guys doing today? If you can hear my voice clearly and see the screen clearly, I'm moving my screen right now. So kindly confirm to me through your message. Very good. So let's wait for a few more seconds for people who are trying to join in. Um, Today is a very important session because I would try to cover few things which have not yet been covered in the first 4 days, and after that I would try to recap all the important things so that people who have missed any of the sessions they are able to catch up, and then in the end we will discuss what should be your game plan for the next 20 days. So just download the handouts which is appearing in the handout section of the webinar control panel. And I think I had also shared the web today's handouts on our SBL WhatsApp group, right? So just download them, be ready. Okay, so let's start. So we don't have a lot of time today. We are jam packed because upon receiving request yesterday, I have also included a presentation slide and a brief discussion on the latest technical article on Internet of Things. So we need to go very fast today. Right. So let's, as usual, we will start with exam technique, which is very important. Do you have this question in mind? Should we answer questions in sequence or not? Right? I will discuss this, and then we'll talk about ratio analysis, risk management, a very important topic, presentation slide, technical articles, recap of exam techniques, recap of professional marks, recap of formats, and then I would share the the list of important topics and models, and then what to do in the last 2 weeks. Okay, so today's exam technique: should we answer the question in sequence? What do you think, guys? What's your view? Should you answer all the questions in sequence or not? Ali Merchant is saying not necessarily. Chris is saying no. Rauzan is saying no need. uh, Bernard is saying, I will prefer to give in sequence, but most of you are saying yes. Right. Okay. So this is a very debatable, subjective thing. Um, Definitely, I would prefer to give in sequence, but it's not mandatory. I repeat, the short answer is we should definitely prefer to give answers in sequence, but it is not mandatory. And when I say it is not mandatory, it means that at the moment there is no compulsion or negative marking for not following the sequence. Okay, now I will share with you something which I discovered by teaching so many students, and I call this my golden rule to pass SBL. So I am sure all of you want to pass SBL in March, correct? So if I can share with you a golden rule, if there are so many techniques, but if someone says, sir, give me one technique to pass SBL, I would share this particular technique, and I deliberately save this technique for the last class. Okay, so this rule is called the first hour and last hour. If you guys want to pass SBL, you have to focus extra in the first hour and then in the last hour. Okay, so you know that the paper is for 4 hours. So in those 4 hours, the first hour and the last hours are crucial. They are critical. They are do or die hours, the first hour and the last hour. Now, why do I say the first hour is crucial? Because it is reading and planning. This is where you would be actually marking or referencing your case. This is where the skeleton, the high level blueprint of your answers will be shaping up. So all the techniques which I taught you, how to identify one-to-one exhibits, how to identify multiple exhibits, and how to read, how to highlight, and more importantly, how to make notes and do the referencing. This is all happening in the first hour. So your next 3 hours, the quality of your drafting and the quality of your linking with the exhibits depend on this first hour, correct? And the second important thing of first hour is that you should stop reading as soon as 60 minutes are up. Even if you spend 5 extra minutes on reading, you are screwing yourself. The moment 60 minutes are up, regardless whether you have completed your reading or not, you have to give up. You have to stop reading and immediately move to drafting. This is very, very important discipline which you have to follow in the first hour. Supposing you overrun your reading hour and you spent 10 minutes extra. So 10 minutes is basically, there is already a deficit of 10 minutes in your drafting time. You have already hijacked 10 minutes even before you have started drafting. So you are starting on a negative footing, right? So what are the two, what is the most key important rule for the first hour? That you properly do your referencing, and then you make sure that you stop reading as soon as your time is up. Okay, if you have to follow these two discipline in the first hour. Now in the second hour and the third hour, you should follow the sequence. In the second hour and the third hour, you should follow the sequence. Okay, you answer questions in the natural sequence. But then when you reach your last hour, oops, sorry. When you reach your last hour, this is a very, very, very critical hour. Your passing or your failing depends on this last hour. And it's very simple logic that so far you have spent 3 hours on the paper, the first hour on reading, and hour number 2 and hour number 3 on writing. So far you have already spent 3 hours, and in those 3 hours, maybe you are able to score 40 marks, 42 marks, right? So you need around 5 to 10 more marks in order to cross the 50 marks milestone. And the last 5 to 10 marks will has to be scored from the last hour. So that is why I am saying the last hour is the make or break, because that is the last leg of your marathon. Whatever marks you score in the last hour will help you pass, or God forbid will not will help you fail. Okay, you have to cross 50, and that is in only possible in the last hour, right? But then what is wrong with the last hour? The problem with the last hour is that you will be mentally exhausted and you will be physically exhausted. Your fingers, your hand, your back will be shouting. Okay, your hands might be stiff. If not for everybody, then probably for majority of the people. And your concentration power, your writing skills, you can be a best judge. Just tell me, what is the quality of your writing, handwriting in the first hour, and you can compare the quality of your handwriting in the last hour. You have been given papers in the past, so definitely in the last hour. And because SBL is 4-hour paper, you have not given a 4-hour paper ever before in ACCA, so you don't have that mental stamina and that physical stamina. So the moment your 4th hour starts, um, you will be very, very tired and very, very frustrated, maybe, if your first 3 hours are not going well. So the 4th hour is actually a test of your nerves, a test of your mental, physical stamina, and a test of how you can think logically in the 4th hour, right? So having explained to you the importance of 4th hour, so now what do we need to do? So as soon as your 3rd hour ends and your 4th hour start, you must stop writing wherever you are, and then you need to take a stock of things. You need to see how much questions are left and how much time is left. Do you know that? Exactly 1 hour. So we know how much time is left, and then you assess how much requirements are left, what are the marks of those requirements, and more importantly, what are the topics of those requirements. So on an average, based on my experience with thousands of students, in the last hour, approximately questions 2 3 questions will be left. Okay, maybe 2.5 questions will be left, or for some faster students, only 2 requirements will be left, right? So you need to analyze what are those topics, and then in the last hour you need to decide that which question you need to decide which question um, you think you would be able to do better, and then you disturb the sequence. Okay, you don't give a damn about the sequence. You should go for that question where you personally feel confident that you can be able to handle that particular question, and you will be able to score more marks. So in a nutshell, if we talk about following the sequence, my short answer is you must follow the sequence, but in the first 3 hours of the paper. In the last hour, you don't necessarily follow the sequence. Then you actually decide which question you think you are confident, and then you go first for that question, and then you do then whatever time is left, then you devote that time to the last question. Okay, so in the end, maybe if you are unable to complete the paper, then I have no issues, because you just missed that particular question in which you already decided that it's a difficult part and I'm not going to attempt it. So you know um so this is the last hour. Keeping in your senses, last hour planning is extremely important. You have to be a warrior, a fighter. You have to be cunning. You have to grab 5 to 10 marks in the last hour if you have to pass. So you have to be very, very cunning, and you have to decide, and only you can decide which question, in your opinion, you can do better. All right. Generally, what I have noticed is that the examiner normally gives a difficult question on the second last question. The second last question of your paper is generally difficult or tricky, and the last question is generally one of the easiest. And I will show you right now. When we do a presentation slide, you will see that it's the last question. So this is a general trend which I have seen. I cannot guarantee, but in most of the papers, the second last question, or maybe the third last question, is the most difficult, and the last question is relatively most easy. So people who are strictly following the sequence, they tend to, you know get stuck with the second last question, and because it is difficult, they miss their time management, and by the time they reach the last question, their exam time is up, and they miss on a question which was actually the most easiest. So please don't be idiots. Please don't, let the examiner kill you like this. It is a trap. So in the last hour, you analyze whatever is left, and then you go for the most easiest part. Do that first, so that you are able to score upfront, cross 50 benchmark, and then in the last 10-15 minutes, whatever is left, you do the most difficult question. All right. So I swear, if you want to pass SBL, your first hour, and most importantly, your planning of the last hour, is the make or break thing for SBL. Do I have any questions? Let me go through the questions. All right. So I think there are no uh, important questions which I have not addressed. So please, uh, now I want you to test this technique. Okay. I have said, and I am a good speaker, and I have kind of mesmerized and convinced you guys. That's nice. But I want you to actually test this technique. So you need to do couple of mocks. All right. So, and if you do this technique yourself, you will immediately feel that what I am saying is effective. So that's the main thing here. Let me just highlight. Decide in the last hour, we decide the sequence and what to leave. See which requirements are still pending. Start that requirement which is more easy and high scoring in your own opinion, and change the sequence if required, because there is no negative marking. Very interesting question, Muhammad Mainuddin. I like your questions. You tend to ask very sensible questions. Mainuddin is asking, sir, if I don't follow any sequence from the beginning, is it punishable? Good question, right? Listen, nothing is punishable so far. Okay. There is no negative marking if you don't follow the sequence. So it is not punishable. However, I want you to follow the sequence in the first 3 hours. even though there is no penalty or no negative marking, you must follow the sequence for the first 3 hours. And the reason is the examiner is very sensitive about the sequence. In all the examiner's report, he insists that students should follow the sequence. Okay, he insists, but there is no negative marking. So that is why I don't want to mess with the examiner unnecessarily. So I would definitely follow the sequence in the first 3 hours. However, in the last hour, I have to be cunning and clever. I have to make sure that I have to score marks. It is me who will fail, and it's not the examiner. I am at the receiving end. So only in the last hour you should change the sequence. Otherwise, don't uh, mess with the examiner. Right? Uh, Ali Merchant, I didn't get your. No, Ali Merchant, I was serious. I was not sarcastic. I tend to finish my reading in approximately 20-25 minutes and then arrange the sequence according to the best road requirement, understanding that I have to develop. Is it okay? This is Shaza. Shaza, you finish your reading in 20-25 minutes. That is awesome. But then do not change the sequence, okay? Then you go with the natural sequence. Only towards the end, when you reach the second last question, then you decide, all right? Benti is asking, sir, if I allocate the 4 hours to the questions and run, don't it advisable? Sorry, I didn't understand your question, Benti. What do you mean by if I allocate the 4 hours to the question? Then when will you read the thing? Sin is asking, are the exhibits in same sequence as the questions? Ah, Cynthia, she's asking, are the exhibits in same sequence as the question? No, no, no. Never. The exhibits are not in the same sequence as questions. I wish. I wish. Okay. This is where your smartness comes. Anjali is saying, sir, by reading you mean all exhibits and then we start to draft? Yes, of course. You have full 1 hour. You will read whatever you can in the 1 hour. Once the 1 hour is up, you stop reading. And I had already explained that how you decide what exhibit to read and what exhibits to delay. I will again discuss all these techniques towards the end in today's recap session. So now I'm getting questions about formats and stuff like that. So I will cover that in the exam technique recap sessions. I will entertain these questions. So for as of now, are you guys clear on the first hour and last hour rule, which I have come up with based on speaking with hundreds and thousands of students? Okay, right. So let's move on. The next topic is financial ratios. You guys are experts in ratios, so I don't want to spend a lot of time. In case a balance sheet and a P&L is given to you and you are asked to analyze the financial position or the financial performance of the company, so I don't want you to go into lots and lots of ratios. Okay, I just want you to focus on few selected ratios, and you will always start with P&L ratios. And in P&L, sir, the first paragraph you will talk about is sales trend, which is called top line. After that, you should talk about analyze the GP margin. Then you should analyze the net profit margin, and then you analyze the ROS. Nothing more on P&L. Okay. And maybe if there is a finance cost on the P&L, then keep a note of it because we can cover that under gearing. After these four P&L ratios, you move to balance sheet, and on the balance sheet, just restrict yourself to these three ratios. Current assets ratio, gearing ratio, and interest cover. Okay. So in total, 7 ratios, 4 from P&L and 3 for balance sheet, and try to give one non-financial ratio. It is called efficiency ratio. It could be anything. It could be revenue per employee, or it depends on the case or the kind of information available. But do try to give one non-financial or a efficiency ratio. This will create a good impression on the examiner, right? But now something which I want to tell. No need to show calculations. Okay, no need to show calculations, because just keep in mind that your analysis is going to be submitted to the board of directors, and directors are not interested in the calculations. So can anybody tell me, if directors are not interested in the calculations, then what are they interested in? So if you are the CFO and you are analyzing the financial performance or financial position of an organization, and you submit your report or your analysis to the board. So if the board is not interested in looking at the calculations, then what are they interested in? Very good. They are interested in the analysis. Ali Machar is saying profits. Come on, Ali. Not profits. What if the company is making losses? Interpretation of ratios. Yasin, you are bang on. Aisha is saying percentage only. No, Aisha. Abdullah is saying reasoning. Yes, reasoning or interpretation. Very good. So look at this. Look at this. They are more interested in this thing, commentary. Okay. So you will calculate all these things. You will be calculating these things, but simple calculation is not enough for SBL paper. None of the directors are financial people. Okay, most of them would be non-financial. You remember, they can be a chef, they can be a air hostess. Remember, diversity, age and backgrounds. So if you tell them gearing ratio was 60% and now the gearing ratio is 85%, do you think our air hostess or our chef will understand what it means, or is it good or bad? So please, okay, we have in SBL, you have to think about the reader. You have to keep the reader in mind. So although we will give numbers, we will give all these numbers, but you have to give commentaries. Without, if the commentary is missing from your answer, you will not get marks even though you have showed the numbers. Okay, so commentary, after you have calculated these ratios, then I need you to give one paragraph on P&L in which you can cover these 4 things, and then I need you to give one paragraph on balance sheet in which you will cover all these things. Okay, so make sure that you give a very simple commentary rather than giving numbers or percentages or trends. Commentary is more important, and when you are giving commentary, you need to link it a little bit with the background of the case. For example, if sales is declining, you need to mention why the sales are declining, because that is the next common sense question any director will ask: why the sales are declining? All right. Aisha is saying, can you please do a commentary on any ratio? Okay, I just did. For example, in this company, supposing the sales is falling, okay, and supposing the gross profit margin is also declining, and accordingly the net profit margin is declining and ROS is declining. So we will start by saying that the sales revenue of the company has consistently declining over last has consistently declined if a trend is given, and the main reason for the decline in the revenue is due to cheaper imports available, or blah blah blah, whatever is the reasons mentioned in the exhibits. And then you will say that all other than that, the gross profit margin is also declining, which shows that the cost of sales are not in line with the decline in sales, and hence the gross profits are reducing. Because the GP margins are declining, this is resulting in a decline in the net profit margin as well as return on capital employed. Very, very basics. Okay. Do not get stuck in complicated explanations because it will be very time consuming. So just very basic. Just think that the board of directors are dumb. So just as you are explaining to a small kid, just use that basic language. Okay. Move on. Now, a very important topic, risk management. Every attempt, or 90% of the attempt, there is a question on risk management. So very, very quickly, risk management, as I briefly covered yesterday, that all organizations, they face certain risks. Okay, all of them. And a risk is something which can cause damage to the organization. So risk management means that it is all those activities through which we try to mitigate or avoid and protect ourselves from the adverse impacts in case a risk happens. Okay, so I have analyzed your past papers, and I think there on this big chapter there could be 5 possible questions. So instead of taking you through all the topics, I have actually narrowed it down to 5 possible questions which you may be tested on risk management chapter. Right. The first possibility is the question may give some risks to you, and they might tell you to identify the main risks. Yeah, is that better? Bigger screen. So you will need to read the exhibit, and then you have to identify what are the main risks which that organization is facing. So I have given a list of all possible risks, not all possible, but these are the majority possible risks, and I would just quickly go through few of them. The one of the most common risk is something called a business risk or a strategic risk. And can you guess from the name what is the meaning of business risk? Any risk which actually threatens the whole existence of our business. Okay, maybe we are into the wrong industry. Maybe our industry is now in a declining phase. Maybe I am a taxi driving company, and because of Uber, the existence of taxi driving industry is now under great threat. So it's a business risk. Maybe the survival of my business or the industry in which I operate, uh, that's called business risk. And a strategic risk means that the strategies I am making might backfire, might not work. Financial risk simply means that I am into constant losses. The financial health of the company is deteriorating. Cash flows issues, going concern issues due to financials. Liquidity risk, you all know, right? That we should have sufficient current assets to pay off our current liabilities. Credit risk is that our debtors do not pay us, and because of that, our cash collections and cash flow might be adversely affected. Foreign exchange risk is something important if the company is selling to overseas buyers, or if the company is importing raw materials from overseas suppliers. In that case, you will be more exposed to foreign exchange risk. Or if it's a multinational company which is operating in several countries of the world, foreign exchange risk. Intellectual risk, any risk to our patents, formulas, research, and more importantly, our skilled uh, staff, all those people who are skilled, they are our intellectual property. All those people who, if they leave us, may cause us damage. Intellectual risk. Political risk means the government uncertainties and government um, attitudes toward our industry. Legal and compliance risk is that you might fail to comply with the regulations applicable to you. This is more applicable in financial services industry because there are a lot of legal requirements applicable, say, on a bank. Or this environmental risk is ecological, the CO2, the spillage. This is more applicable on oil and gas industry or manufacturing industry where there is pollution. Reputation risk, very very important. Any bad activity which can cause damage to the reputation of our entity. For example, the you remember the question we did yesterday, the protesters, they entered our premises and there was an accident and this and that. It was all reputation. And then health and safety risk. This is again more applicable on manufacturing industries, physical, tangible industries, the safety of our employees, safety of our customers, suppliers, the society, the neighborhood. All this is health and safety. Technology risk. This is more applicable to high tech industry where we are highly dependent on technology. Market risk. Yes, Toyin, market risk. As I said, this is not a complete list, but this is something which is most commonly used in the exam. Okay. And then possibility number two is give recommendations. And generally possibility number one and possibility number two are are linked in one question. The examiner may ask you to identify the key risks and then suggest measures to address those risks. And how do you give recommendations? I taught you yesterday, whenever you are given a problem, how do you give a recommendation? Very simple. Read the risk carefully and reverse it to arrive at the recommendation, and this will work most of the time. Opposite, excellent, Furkan, good. The third possibility is the examiner might ask why risk varies company to company, or why risk varies from industry to industry. So it's a very easy question. So just, can I ask you a question? Do you think all companies in the world follow the same level of risks or faces the same level of risk? No. Risk varies from company to company. And why does it vary from company to company? These are few reasons. Okay. It depends on the size of the company, whether it's a small company or an extremely large global company. It depends on the geographical locations of the company, whether it depends in which country you are located, or if you are a multinational, how centralized, decentralized you are. The growth phase of the company. For example, if you are in a setup phase, you might face more risk, or the business model which the companies are following. For example, are you having a physical business, or are you present online, or both? And the financing structure of the companies, are they financed through capital, loan financing, gearing? So all these factors are different from companies to companies, and hence the risk levels are different from company to company. So we just discussed a very basic concept, why risk varies from company to company. It depends on the size, the location, the growth phase, the business model, the financing structure. Similarly, another thing which can be asked is why risks varies from industry to industry. So do you think all industries they face the exact same level and type of risks? No. A financial industry, a bank faces different kinds of risk versus a manufacturing industry, correct? So it all depends on the nature of the product. Hang on, my this highlighter is misbehaving. So it depends on the oh, come on, man. Why are you not working? Oops. Okay. It depends on the nature of the product. It depends on the level of investments. Okay. Some industries are capital intensive, like an oil and gas industry, like a bank. And some industries are less capital intensive, like a clothing company or food industry. And then it depends on the level of regulations. Some industries have higher laws, like bank, like medical medicine or those kind of things. And then it depends on ecological aspects like oil and gas. And then it depends on technology. So you must just remember these few things, why risk varies from company to company or why risk may vary from industry to industry. Okay. The fourth possibility is risk diversification. Very important, one of the important techniques to manage our risk is that we diversify our exposures. As you have heard, do not put all eggs in one basket. You've heard that, right? And what's wrong in putting all eggs in one basket? It's very simple. If the basket fell on the ground, all eggs will be broken. So what do you do then? Split your eggs in several baskets. So risk diversification is a very, very important thing. Okay. So whenever we talk about diversification, there are three things. There are three types of diversification. You can go into product diversification. So if you are selling clothes, adults clothes, you can start selling clothes for children. Okay. Or if you are teaching ACCA students, you can start teaching CIMA students or CFA students. Product diversification. The other possibility is industry diversification, that you diversify your industries. So if I am selling clothes, I start selling shoes. Or if I am teaching A level ACCA, I start teaching A levels or Montessori, or I start selling burgers. Okay, industry diversification. And the third type of diversification is geographical diversification. Okay, do not concentrate on one city only. If you are into one city, then expand your business to other parts or cities of the country. If you are already throughout the country, then do not concentrate on one country, then you expand globally and move to other countries in the world. So from a risk management chapter, just keep in mind that there are whenever you see the word risk diversification, there are three types of diversifications which an organization may consider: product diversification, geographical diversification, industry diversification. Right. Let me quickly go through the questions. Laiba is saying, can we relate here related and unrelated diversification? Yes, you can, but no need if the question doesn't ask you to do so. How diversification and differentiation? What's differentiation? A differentiation, I think, means how you differentiate your products from your competitors. That's my understanding. Differentiation means how you differentiate your product from your competitors. Differentiation is a word used from customers and competitors angle, whereas diversification is a word used for risk management. Okay, right, correct. So you understand differentiation is a different thing and diversification is different. All right, so the fifth possible question. Yes, and diversification can be forward and backward, but do not go into the risk management. If you get a question on risk management, then you're not expected to talk a lot about forward integrations, backward integrations, or related or unrelated diversifications. Just keep in mind three simple diversification techniques: product diversification, geographical diversification, industry diversification. Under risk management chapter, you don't need to go into complicated details. Maybe diversification can be tested outside the risk management chapter, maybe in other chapters. There you can talk about detailed diversification techniques, but not under risk management. The last type of question which you can get is, oops, I'm trying to, just give me a minute. I'm trying to get this highlighter work. Let me get another pen. Okay, the fifth type of question is risk mitigation strategies. Yes, heat map I will cover, Fazli. I will cover heat map in the question. Okay. Um, the fifth type of question you can get under risk management chapter is risk mitigation strategies. As the name says, these are various strategies in order which organizations adopt in order to mitigate the risks. And you must remember these. Okay. And these are normally in the sequence which I have shown. So the first activity we do is, if it's a good organization, if they are risk focused, so the first thing our organization does is we try to embed risk management in organization's culture. Okay, risk management, not risk, sorry. So risk management is not an activity per se. It is actually a mindset. Whatever employees or management do, they need to keep risk management in mind. All the decisions the board take, they have to keep risk management in mind. So risk management is an attitude or a mindset. So if any organization they want to focus on risk management, the first and foremost thing is they have to embed risk management in the organization's overall culture from top to bottom. Okay. And how do you embed risk management in organization's culture? Here, I have given a list. We'll come to that list in a bit. After the second step here is organization, they adopt COSO's enterprise risk management framework. Okay, so for accounting, do you know that whether there are accounting frameworks, accounting or financial reporting frameworks? Yes, in accounting profession, most of us follow IFRS because those are globally accepted and globally recognized frameworks for accounting. Similarly, there are proper risk management frameworks available in the world. And the most famous one is called COSO's Enterprise Risk Management Framework. So whenever an organization talks about risk management, The second step they need to do is they need to implement ERM framework. Okay, and then they talk about risk management strategies, which is TARA framework. Most of you might be aware of the TARA framework. It is either we try to transfer the risks, T for transfer, A for avoid, R for reduce, and A for hang on, transfer. We try to transfer the risk to a third person. Example could be insurance or outsourcing. And avoidance means we try to avoid the risk altogether. And reduce means that we try to reduce the impact or the implication of the risk by taking certain measures. And this is accept. Accept means that we do nothing, we just accept the risk. Yes, thank you, Balaj, thank you. So smaller risks, you don't have to. Companies, they try to ignore small risks. So accept. So Tara model and heat map. So I will just explain to you heat maps in a question which we will do in next 5 minutes. After risk management strategies, a good organization will also have a formal risk committee. And a risk committee, do you remember? A majority of the members are um, non-executive directors, but the chairman has to be a NED, and you should know uh, the core tasks of a risk committee. And then larger organizations or complicated organizations, like they tend to have a dedicated risk manager, like oil and gas sector or complicated manufacturing companies, they have risk managers. Even you remember in the question we did last night on that road construction, they had a risk manager. And then in the end there has to be risk audits. Okay, so risk mitigation strategies includes: number one, embed in your culture, adopt a risk management framework, adopt risk management strategies, have formal risk committees, have a formal risk manager, and then have periodic risk audits to make sure that you guys are all on track. Okay, let me go to questions. What is COSO? COSO is I don't know. That's Google. I know, but I don't remember. It is some organizations, corporation of something something. You just Google and let me know, Asan. Yeah, Aisha, thank you. Company of sponsoring organizations, COSO. But please don't get into these stupid things. All right. Uh, where unavoidable risk would fall in Tara? Huh? What kind of question is that, Asad? Where unavoidable risks would fall in Tara? It depends on the company. Anything which is unavoidable, the company will decide whether they want to transfer, or the company will decide whether they want to reduce, or just do nothing, or avoid. So if it's not unavoidable, then it can fall into either transfer, reduce, or accept. Yeah, come on, ask some difficult questions, man. Depends on the probability and impact. Absolutely. Right. So how do we embed risk management in the culture of the organization? And whenever you see the word embed in the question, or whenever you see the word culture in the question relating to risk management, you must immediately know that this is the topic. Embed is the keyword. How do you embed anything in the culture? Simple. First step is commitment from top management. If you remember, culture comes from the leader, culture comes from the top management. So if you want to embed risk management in the culture of the organization, it has to come from the top management. So step number one, commitment from top management. The chairman, the board, the senior executives needs to display the importance of risk management. And then you must have a formal risk committee. Again, that is a board committee, so it's coming from the top. And then you must adopt a ERM framework, and then a lot of emphasis on employee trainings. Okay, so whenever you hire a new employee, you have to give them orientation, you have to train them about risk management as well, and then you include risk management things in the individual's job descriptions and tasks, and then you do their annual appraisals, and you appreciate and reward good risk behaviors. This is a continuous activity. So through all these four steps, organizations can embed risk management in the culture. Let me go through anything on the question list. All right, so we are oh, sorry, lastly, there is a possibility question on advantages of risk committee. I think this is has been asked couple of times. So you think having a risk committee, what can be the advantages of having a risk committee? We just talked about it yesterday under the heading of board committees. We talked about under the board committees, there was a heading called advantages of having board committees. So if the questions specifically ask you what are the advantages of risk committee, you can just apply the advantages of having committees. The number one advantage is, let me recall, that having a separate risk committee means that they will be able to focus um, on risk management aspects. They would be specialized, focused, and more time can be spent. Okay, and board has limited time, so the full board can spend more time on strategies, uh, and then I think um, greater kind of shareholders confidence, because if there's a specific committee, uh, they know that then that particular activity will be handled nicely. All right, good. Assurance to stakeholders, yes. Now let's do a question on risk management. uh, we just have 2 more hours in which I have to do a question on risk management, and then we do a presentation slide, and we talk about internet of things, and then I want to spend more time on retake and then taking a lots of questions from you. So this is practice number 13. Topic is risk management. DCS question number, specimen paper number 1, DCS question number 2A. Let me quickly look for that. Okay, do you have all this with you? Okay, question number 2A. In the October board report, the executive directors refer to a number of factors affecting DCS company and the need to choose one of the two alternative strategic options in the board report. Okay, you now need to do the following. Required: draft a section of the report to identify and briefly discuss 3 main risks. Okay, Hang on, guys. Again, this is misbehaving. Come on. Three main risks which DCS company currently faces and plot them on a heat map, recommending appropriate strategies to manage those risks using an appropriate risk management framework. Oh my God. And all this is for 6 marks? I hate you, Mr. Examiner. Three risks: plot, identify, discuss, plot them on the heat map, and then recommend strategy just for 2 marks each. And then there are professional marks for commercial acumen. Okay. Right. So let's see. Exhibit 4 is the October board report for DCS. I think in the question it also gave a hint here that, in the October report. So I would directly go to the October report. It is basically to the board of directors, strategic October board report, from the introduction and then all this. All right. Introduction. The report is based on information obtained from all the executive directors of DCS under several main headings. The report highlights risks, opportunities, and the future outlook of DCS. But I am more interested in the risk because the question I am focusing on is risk. It also focuses on strategy and resource allocation, highlighting I don't give a damn. I want to know about risk. So then this section says risk and opportunities. What are the specific risks and opportunities which affect DCS ability to create value over the short, medium, and long term, and how is the organization dealing with them? Okay. By 2014, the international market for data communication components started to saturate and decline. So just for you to recall, we are a company called DCS, and we have got two products, and our main product is data communication component. Okay, that's our main product, our bread and butter. And what does this highlighted sentence says? It says that by 2014, the international market for data communication component started to saturate and decline. Is that good or bad? Absolutely right, Toyin, Jalal, Huda, it's bad. That's a risk. And then for the supply and support of contracts for specialist IT network management system, we are now finding it increasingly difficult and costly to maintain the required level of network and support. It is getting harder to recruit high caliber staff to DCS. Okay. The headquarters, although a modern site, is in a geographical location which is unattractive for key personnel to relocate to. Okay, so we are finding it difficult to recruit high caliber people. One of the reason is unattractive location. Our specialists in the system support side of the business are currently overstressed because many key staff have been headhunted or taken early retirement. So many key staff have been headhunted. What is the meaning of headhunted? Headhunted means that they have been kidnapped by our competitors. They have joined our competitors. And who have joined? Our key staff. have either joined our competitors or they are taking early retirement. Okay, good news or bad news? Bad news. Okay, so sorry, in the first paragraph we are saying that the industry is mature or decline. Here we are saying key staff gone or going on, difficult to recruit. Okay, what else? Now, lenders have until recently been quite willing to lend DCS additional long-term funding at competitive interest rates, but are now tightening their credit lines to the company and placing covenants on us to keep financial gearing within acceptable limits. Oh my God. They are also increasing their interest rates to compensate for the additional financial risk. Oh, it is unlikely that any future growth or investment can be financed from further debt, and we would need to use our considerable cash reserves or utilize internally generated funds. Currently, DCS has a gate cost of equity of 12%. Oh, okay. So this paragraph talks about financial risks, as the word says here, and lenders tightening their limits required. You remember? This identify and briefly discuss three main risks and plot them on a heat map recommending appropriate strategy. Now, the problem is, mm, just give me a second. So the problem here is that we can easily identify the risk, but the marks are too less. Okay, so I would definitely try to give a very short and precise answer, but let's first see whether we are able to identify the risk. So the industry is going down. It says the industry is now saturated. It is now saturated and declining, and it is about our core product. Okay, so let me quickly open up the here. What risk you think is applicable? If I say my industry is saturated and now started to decline, which risk here? What do you think? I think this one. Business risk. Excellent. Our the future of our business is under threat because the industry in which we are operating is saturating and declining. Okay. And what do you recommend? What do you recommend? If the industry in which I am existing is saturating and declining, what do you recommend? Because the question also wants you to recommend a strategy. I want you to think about the three diversification possibilities. What were the three diversification possibilities? We can go for product diversification, we can go for industry diversification, or we can go for geographical diversification. So product diversification is a possibility in this particular case because they also have another product and the future of that product looks very promising. It's mentioned on the exhibits, but we didn't read it. that product, if I recall, is something to do with network management systems and big data, which is in a lot of demand. So we can say that now they should kind of go, focus more on their second product. They should try and allocate more resources to the second product so that that kinds of grows and takes over the position of this product, right? Very simple. The second risk is difficulty to recruit, and our key staff are joining competitors or are taking early retirement. So we are losing our key staff, our technical people. We are a high tech company. So for a high tech company, IT engineers and IT researchers or key staff are intellectual risk. Very, very good. Intellectual risk. So if our key staff are leaving because of one of the reason is harder to recruit because of our location, we are unable to attract key personnel to relocate to. So what do you suggest? How do we deal with this risk of people leaving us? Training. You think Altaf training will help us retain our people? Training? If I train you, will you stay with me? No. Financial incentives, okay, good perks, transport, very interesting. Salaries and working conditions, more rewards, increments, attractive facilities, motivation. What about geographical relocation? Online job, very, very creative, Anish. Share options, excellent. All of you are right. Okay. A simple answer could be that if the location is unattractive, we try and see the possibility of changing our location. Better answers could be that we should revisit our reward structures, incentives, perks, pick and drop. I don't know anything, but you need to be careful of one thing. Whatever you say, do not go into details. Why? Because it is just worth 1 mark. So do not give, you know, uh, beautiful stories and this and that simply because you know the answer. Be very, very mindful of the mark allocation. For all this thing, the bloody examiner is just giving me 1 mark for recommendation. So I'm not going to give him meat. I'm just going to give him something of $1 only. Okay, move on. Third risk. I can simply see the examiner himself has used the word financial risk in the question. So I would say the third risk is a financial risk. Our sources of funds, our ability to raise finance in future is now under threat. Done. What do we do? Recommendation. So again, if you see the paragraph, you would see the recommendation is also mentioned that in this case, the CEO is saying that we would need to use our considerable cash reserves or utilize internally generated funds. So that's the solution. That's it. So you see, it's very, very simple. But the only problem with this is the marks are too less. So what kind of answer would I give? First of all, which format? Remember the format? And if you say no, I will kill you guys. Remember? Whenever, yes, I will come to the heat map. Whenever you get a question on risk and recommendations or weaknesses or recommendations, please use the tabular format. Risk number one was business risk, and then you explain business risk and you give the recommendation. And then two, he talked about intellectual risk. Explain intellectual risk in 2-3 lines, picking from the, not explain the risk, but just pick up the sentence from the case and give a recommendation. And then risk number 3 is a financial risk. Link with the case and give a recommendation. Okay. So Smita is asking, can you please repeat the recommendation on financial risk? The If the bank is not giving you loan, what other choice you have? You have to rely more on your own funds, or you have to go for equity, right? That's it. And this is mentioned in the last paragraph of the exhibit. Yes, I'm coming to the heat map. Give me a minute. I'm just first showing you. I'm just trying to score marks by first giving risk and recommendation. In the last, I will give heat map. And if I run short of time, for 8 marks, how much time? For 8 marks, how much time? Can anybody calculate? 14 minutes. Okay, in which I have to read, think, plan, and then draft. So what I'll do is I will first give the risks and the recommendations in a tabular form. And then whatever time I have left, 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, then I will draw the heat map. In case I run short of my time on this question, all I will miss doing is the heat map, but at least I have demonstrated to the examiner that I was able to identify the risk and give the recommendations, right? So I will draw the heat map in the last. First, I will quickly do the core requirement, which is identify the risk and give recommendations. And then Hamza is asking, is there a need to write impact of the weakness? I will kill you, Hamza. What is the marks here are we talking about? Not even 1 mark for one weakness. Okay, so please decide what you want to give according to the marks. If the same question was like 12 marks, I would have given the impact as well. But because the same question is like only 8 marks, in which I have to talk about 3 risks and then draw a bloody heat map, I am just not going to talk about anything more than just basic stuff. Okay, skip the impact. Please be cunning. Please be cunning. Recommendation should be from the scenario. Absolutely, yes. Sir, may you please just briefly give an example of the answer that commercial acumen? Yes. So someone else also asked that in this question, um, you need to, how can we demonstrate commercial acumen? So the most easiest skill is commercial acumen. You don't really have to do anything. You just link with the case. So in this question, we talked about business risk. We talked about intellectual risk. We gave recommendations like change the location, or give better packages, or give pick and drop, or product diversification. All this is commercial acumen. You are talking like a business guy. Just don't think like an accountant. If you just think like a proper business person or a board director, by default, you will be talking commercial sense, no? But if you talk like an accountant, like some ratios, or deferred taxation, or hardcore accounting words and terminologies, if you use that, then you will not score on commercial acumen. But if you just avoid using accounting terminologies, by default you will get commercial acumen marks, because you are just linking your answers with the scenario. It's just very, very easy, right? Okay, excellent. So what is this stupid heat map? So I need to recall this. I don't remember. So let me see. I hope I can recall. Heat map is something in which you draw a big box, okay? And on the X, you can write probability of that risk happening. And on the right, on the Y axis, you write impact, okay? And let me change markers. And then this here would be low, here would be medium, and the more you go outward, it will be high. Similarly, on the y-axis, low, medium, and the more you go upward, it becomes high. Okay, you understand this matrix? This is a heat map. On the x, you show the probability of that risk being happening. Is it low probability? Is it medium probability? Or is it high probability? And on the y-axis, you look at the impact. That what's the meaning of impact? That in case that risk happens, what would be the impact on the business? Is it a low impact, medium impact, or high impact? This is all subjective and judgmental. And then based on this graph or this framework, we will plot we will plot our risks on this diagram. So for example, now let me go to the risk. What was the first risk we talked about? Business risk. It said that the data communication component industry internationally is saturated and has started to decline. Correct? So what's the probability of this risk happening? It's already happening. Okay, it's already happening. It's already started to decline. We are not thinking that it may happen. It's already high. So it's high probability. And what's the impact? So if this risk happens, what impact will it have on us? So this product is our bread and butter. So impact medium to low. Sayyid Jalal, can you give me the logic when you say medium to low impact? This is a main product. Data communication component, if I'm not wrong, is 70% of my revenue. So medium to high. I might not say high because this is not our only product. We do have another product, but 2/3 of my revenue or 70% of my revenue is from this. So medium to high. So where can I plot this? The probability is high, and I would like to put it somewhere here. Done. More towards the outer side. Now there is no specific exact place. Okay, it's all subjective. It's just a visual presentation of the various risks on one graph. The second risk was intellectual risk. Again, what's the probability of key staff leaving us? It's high. It's medium to high. It's medium to high. Okay, and what's the impact? Again, somewhere medium to high. So where do we put that? Here and here, somewhere here. Okay, it is definitely lower than the business risk. So it is business risk I have put on the outermost side, and then intellectual risk. What about the financial risk? What's the probability? It's high already, medium to high. It's already the bank has started reducing the credit lines. But what's the impact? The financial risk, what's the impact? What if the bank does not give us more loans? The case says that company already have sufficient or considerable amount of reserves, so the impact might be medium. Okay, so probability high and impact medium, so somewhere maybe somewhere here impact is a bit lower because we do have. Yes, Furkan, you are right. Low impact or medium to low impact of the financial risk because we do have reserves. I can show you. I read somewhere. You have to remember these small things. It says that we would need to use our considerable cash reserves. So it says that we already have considerable cash reserves. So even if the bank stops giving me loan, it has a limited impact on me because I have considerable. So that is why if you see, I have put it around between medium and low and somewhere here. Okay, got it. But as I said, so this is a heat map. It's simply just a stupid thing. It just visually plots all the risks on one graph so that management can prioritize the which risk they need to address first. Okay, any questions on heat risk? Tara is used after heat map, right? Yes, Tara will be used after heat map. Based on the heat maps, you then decide which strategy you need to use Tara. Okay. Okay, right. So let's move on. Done. So I hope you guys are done with risk management. It was a big topic, but not a difficult topic. What's left now? So now I want to do one very quick question on presentation slide, and after that I will talk about this small article in 5 minutes, and then I will give a break, and then after that break we will start recapping and try to wrap up our learnings which we did in the last 5 days. Okay, so presentation slide, I thought it would be best to select a question and then actually show you how to do it. Okay, so this is um, SBL specimen number 3, NABI question number 4A. Come on. Okay. Question number 4, required. Prepare a presentation slide, sorry, prepare a presentation with an appropriate number of slides and accompanying notes to support your findings covering the following items. You need to give slides and accompanying notes. A, identification of the weaknesses of the current management accounting information in supporting decision making for the restaurant business. You need to identify the weaknesses. What about recommendations? No, part A does not talk about recommendations. So we need to make a slide for can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? All right, okay, got it. So I will just rewind a bit. So in part A, we need to identify the weaknesses. Okay, 6 marks. So how many number of weaknesses we have to give for 6 marks? Think and then shoot. Don't be cowboys. Think and then shoot. 3 weaknesses? Is it 2 marks each or 3 marks each? 3 to 4, Aisha, I will kill you. Aisha says 3 to 4 weaknesses for 6 marks. Please, Aisha, don't be generous. You have to consider time management. It looks like you guys want to give perfect answers, but then you don't watch your time management. Yeah, so 3 weaknesses, not more than three. Okay, 2 or maximum 3, not 3 and 4. And then in part B, recommend improvements to the management accounting data, which identifies key performance indicators. 10 marks. So for 10 marks, how many recommendations? Okay, right. And both part A and part B is a slide. And normally the examiner, they specify the number of slides, but in this particular question, he has said that prepare a presentation with appropriate number of slides. So I think I would just give one slide for A. I would just mention the 3 weaknesses on one slide. And for part B, I might need to use 2 slides because I need to talk about 5 recommendations. So okay, so part A, I would just try and do one slide. So first, where is that MIS? Here is that exhibit 1. Oh, no, this is wrong, huh? I think this was exhibit 4 or something. So this is the management accounts for 2020. I give you guys 1 minute. Can you identify 3 weaknesses from this? Now, imagine you are the CFO of this company, and this is the management accounts which you receive every month, and you are reviewing it. And you have recently joined this company, and you are looking at it for the first time. What will be your questions? Is there anything missing from this MIS? So I give you 1 minute. Think, and I will quickly grab a glass of water. I will talk in 1 minute. Don't write. First, think of 3 weaknesses and then write and show it to me. Okay. 30 more seconds. Look at the MIS and try to identify 3 weaknesses or shortcoming. right. Some of you have really given good weaknesses. Okay. So let me go through. Very nice. Mohammad Abdi. I am impressed with Mohammad Abdi. Abdi says no reasons for variances have been given. Do you agree? Everybody. Abdi is saying no reasons for variation. So I can see the variance column. It tells me about the amounts, but as the board or as I am the CFO, what's the next logical question? I want to see why these variances are. What are the reasons? So very important shortcoming of the MIS is it does not show the reasons for the variance. Okay, very good, Abdi. And then Abdi is saying it's not flexed. Abdi is saying it is not flexed. I am very impressed with you, Abdi. This was this. It looks like you have read my mind. These were the exact things I would question as a CFO. First of all, where are the reasons for variances? Second one is, why is this budget not flexed? And what is the meaning of flexed? Flex means that, the budgeted volumes may be different than the actual level of volumes. So when actual volumes are different, then you can't compare your actual numbers with the budgeted numbers because it is not like to like comparison. Then in that case, you revise the budget, you recalculate the budget based on the actual levels or based on the actual volumes, and then you compare that flexed budget with your actuals. That will actually give you apple to apple, like to like comparison. No? Haven't you guys read the topic budgets ever before? Right. So we don't have to recalculate in this case, but as a CFO, I will just kick the finance manager on his butt. I will throw this MIS on his face because this is not a bloody MIS. This is a piece of garbage. It's not based on flex. It's not telling me the reasons. What else? And then there are many other things which most of you have covered. Uh, it's at the breakup of admin expenses, this and that, anything. Um, okay. The main thing is, can somebody remind me what was the marks? Tax implication, come on, Hunen. Management accounts do not talk about tax implications. Management accounts are internal, more focused towards business. Okay, someone mentioned external factors are missing. So again, external factors are normally not part of your monthly financial state, like monthly management accounts. External factors are something which we look at in the quarterly board meetings. They are not part of the monthly management accounts. It is not by product. Yunma, absolutely right. It is not by product. Very intelligent. Um, in this particular case, Nehbi, there are 8 restaurants, okay? And as a CFO, I would definitely want to also see restaurant-wise P&L or restaurant-wise performance to see which restaurants are profitable, which are not profitable. Very good. All right. But the sad news is It is only 6 marks. So you need to do not expand this answer. Do not spend extra time. So let's draw the slide. Okay. So supposing I'll just draw it here. Supposing this is your answer sheet, you will first draw the slide. You will actually draw the slide. Okay. So you would draw something like draw like this on your answer sheet. You will draw a rectangle box. Sorry, my hands are not going straight. You will give a heading slide number 1. And what does this slide talk about? What should be the heading of the slide? Weaknesses of current MIS. Okay, so you give a heading, weaknesses of MIS. So you make a slide and you give the heading. Okay, and then what are the 3 weaknesses? I don't want to expand this. What are the 3 weaknesses? You will say 1 or no. Just do dash, dash, and 3 weaknesses. The first weakness was I don't want stories. Can you give me a heading for the first weakness? The first weakness was that no reasons for variances were there, right? So, can you give me a heading for the reasons for variance weakness? Reasons. What was the professional marks for? Professional marks. Communication. Okay. So communication means that you draw the format properly and then the tone should be kept in mind using the reader, keeping in mind the reader. Reasons for variances. That's it. Second was third was make it simple. Add breakup of admin. Okay, you got that? So we just and then we close the slide. So we will just do like this and close this slide. So our slide is ready. Slide number 1, weakness of the MIS, and we mentioned the 3 weaknesses in heading form. In like we did not explain them, but we just gave headings using bullet style. Now, where do we explain these things? So we give another heading after the slide. If you see the question here, accompanying notes. So we made the slide. Now we need to make accompanying notes. So the wording here is accompanying notes. So I would write here okay. I would give colon. In fact, just leave one line here, okay, between the slide and the accompanying notes heading. And then what do? You just need to you just need to explain each of the above points in couple of lines. So what do you mean by reasons for variances? Okay, the heading was reason for variances. So what you mean by that should be written or explained under accompanying notes. We will say that the MIS only shows variances amounts. Full stop. It does not explain the reasons behind the variances. Full stop. That's it. Then you leave one line, then you write another paragraph talking about budget not flexed. What did you mean by that? Can you write 2-3 lines? You just say that the MIS directly compares the budget numbers with the actual numbers. This is not a like-to-like comparison. The MIS should be based on flexed budgets. The comparison should be based on flexed budget. Full stop. And the third paragraph would be the currently the breakup of admin cost is not mentioned. The breakup of admin cost should be mentioned. Full stop. That's it. So do you understand the presentation slide format? You draw a rectangle box, that is the actual slide, but you don't write stories inside that slide. The slide will only contain headers or bullet points. Where will be the explanations? Explanations will be outside the slide under the heading of accompanying notes or supporting notes or explanations, whatever word the examiner is used in the question. You just give that heading outside the rectangle box, and then you write couple of lines on each of the headings you mentioned inside the slide. Is just the different way of presenting your answer. Then the next slide would be on next page. Okay, do not try to put lots of slide. One answer sheet, one page, one slide along with the accompanying notes. Another slide should be a new fresh page with accompanying notes. Sir, what should we use to draw the box? Pen or pencil? No pencil allowed in SBL. Just draw the box with your pen. That's it. In fact, if I know, only black color is allowed. So even you're not allowed to use any other color of pen. So pencil is definitely not allowed. Everything with your normal pen. Done, got it? Excellent. So we are done with this thing. Now the last thing before the break is some technical article, Internet of Things. Okay. I had shared with you yesterday on our WhatsApp group a very nice video. And that guy really explained what is the meaning of Internet of Things in such a marvelous style. I really like it. I wish I can also teach in the same manner he was explaining Internet of Things. So please, and then I also shared the actual article on the WhatsApp group. So please go through that video just to understand what is the meaning of Internet of Things, and then just go skim through the articles. But no, don't go through the article. I have actually summarized the articles here. Okay, Minakshi, yes, just note my WhatsApp number and I will add you in the group in the night. Internet of Things. So the concept here is that when internet first came into existence, it was about internet of people. Internet was actually used to connect people, right? But now, few years back, a new concept came in. Now they say Internet of Things, which means that now the internet is used to connect all our gadgets and devices. Okay, so that's the concept, that all our devices and smart gadgets are connected with each other. They not only collect data, but then they also share that data. And now businesses are considering how they can use that data from IoT for commercial purposes. So imagine you are carrying a lot of gadgets with you. To start with, you have a mobile smartphone with you, and then you might have a smart watch and a Fitband on your hand, or there might be devices, TVs in your home, satellite TVs, and all those gadgets around you. And all the gadgets are actually collecting data about you, what you are doing, what you are not doing, what's your preferences. So all these gadgets, if they compile or if they consolidate their data, it really gives a lot of inside information about you. Okay. And now organizations are trying to use that data to give you more personalized products to satisfy you more better. And the concept of big data is that there's so much data available that organizations can really look at the trends and come up with marketing strategies and product strategies. Same thing is IoT is that through IoT we collect so much data, and then we run it past the big data concept, and then organizations, they use that data to for commercial purposes, right? What are the advantages of IoTs? Executing tasks automatically. These are smart devices, so they will automatically execute tasks. They are like robots for you. So for example, when you wake up in the morning, the moment the coffee machine senses that you are up and mobile, you are moving, the coffee machine will automatically start making your coffee. And then IoTs can generate more efficiencies. They are again intelligent devices. For example, electricity management, light management, and then they can identify and monitor problems. So in case of I'm wearing a Fitbit or a smartwatch, and if I'm getting a heart attack, immediately my watch will sense that my blood pressure is high or something is wrong with me. It will immediately inform my doctor. It will connect my statistics with the hospital. An ambulance might be on the way, or everything automated. And then IoT will lead to newer opportunities. Constant research is happening. So all these are the advantages, but there are certain disadvantages of IoT as well. Number one, data security. So much data is being gathered, but I don't know whether they are kept securely or not. Can hackers hack into it? My credit card details, my girlfriends, my chattings, my this, my that, sensitive information. Is this secure or not? I have no idea. And then privacy of personal data. Most of the data is very, very personal. My health data, my habits. So the risk is that personal data, there are certain very stringent regulations around personal data like data protection acts. So those are the things or risks in IoT. And which are the sectors or industries which are now heavily focusing on using IoTs? Healthcare industries, transport industries, all these things. Right. What kind of question I expect from IoT, I have no idea. But I have a feeling that maybe the case study may belong to a company which is trying to use IoT for its future strategies. Maybe. I don't know. One of the question might be that now the company, as a future strategic direction, is considering the use of IoTs. Please, can you evaluate the benefits and risk associated with IoT? And you can say, okay, yeah, IoT is the next generation, the next thing. It will enable the company to gather lots of data. It will enable the company to get in good insight into the customers' preferences, which will help the company design products, design marketing strategies, in personalized stuff for the customer. However, there are certain risks. The security of the data needs to be properly managed, and aspects relating to privacy of data and Data Protection Act needs to be keep in mind. That's it. Any questions on IoT? All right, guys. Uh, we just have slightly over 1 hour left, so let me give a break now, but I will give a short break. Right now it's 9:54. I will give a 6-minute break so that we can talk more about recaps and what to do, what not to do. I will see you sharp at 10 p.m. Off you go. Okay, welcome back. We just discussed IoT, and I received a couple of questions that is IoT and big data the same? Not really. So big data gathers data from a variety of sources. Okay. Um, Whereas IoT is one of the source. So IoT, they gather the data, they collect the data, and then they send it to someone. Okay. They compile the data, and then that data is shared with someone. And big data is that someone. Okay. So big data collects data from IoTs and from social networks like Facebook, Twitters, and Gmails and Googles and all those. So big data is actually collecting data from a big variety of sources, and IoT is one of the sources for big data. Okay, so the next important component is basically now we need to recap. Just give me 1 minute. I need to just fix one thing. Right. So, are you guys ready for recaps? I want to recap all our learnings we did for last 5 days. Let me go to the questions. Okay. So I want to recap about the key exam techniques. Okay. And then after that, I will recap how to gain maximum marks under professional skills. And then I want to recap on all the formats which are tested. Okay. And then I will come to the list of important topics. And then I will take as much questions as possible. Okay. So starting from the exam techniques. So there were basically four exam techniques I talked over the last 5 days. The first one was linking. Oops. First one was linking your answers with the exhibit. The second exam technique was time management. The third technique was the format or presentation of your answer. And the last technique, which we in fact discussed tonight, was the first hour and the last hour rule. So, in recap, when we talk about linking with the exhibit, this is the weakness number one. This is weakness number one, always mentioned by the examiner in his exam reports, that students do not link the answers with the exhibits. And I actually taught you over the last 5 days how you can link your answer with the case. Do you remember? First of all, we will make a list of requirements on the last page of our answer sheet so that we actually know what exactly are the questions wants us to do. Then more importantly, we will read one para, we will stop, and we will do the referencing. This referencing is very, 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 very important. And did you see that I was referencing? And how was I referencing? I was just writing the key messages from each para on the left hand side so that I don't have to search again and again. Okay. Because in our practice, we were just doing one question at a time. I did not make a list of questions. But when you will be handling the entire SBL, there are around 8 to 10 questions. In that case, you might need to make a small concise list of requirements, keep it besides the question paper while you are reading the case, so that you exactly know what to highlight and what to do the referencing. After that, the second technique was time management. Under time management, there are two elements. The first one is reading time, and the second one is drafting time. Okay, reading time is 60 minutes, and we will prioritize our reading. We will first read bigger exhibits, those exhibits which contains multiple information. Okay, we will skip the one-to-one exhibits for later. By that, what I mean is we will read them after we have read the bigger exhibits, so that in case we run out of time, in case 60 minutes are up, we don't we just miss reading the one-to-one exhibits, which we can always read when we are about to start that particular question. Okay, on the drafting side, Uh, we have, sorry, this is a typo here. We have 3 hours. Okay. And for 1 mark, we allocate 1.8 minutes. For 1 mark, we try to give 5 lines maximum, excluding the format lines, if any. For 1 point, which will carry 2 marks here, but then there are certain exceptions to this one. In case weakness and recommendation is required together, then that part will be 3 marks. And in case weakness, implication, and recommendation is required, then it will be worth 4 marks. But by and large, 1 point carries 2 marks. Okay. And then move to next question as soon as the allocated time is up. Now this is very, very important. These, let me highlight this thing and this thing. So this discipline, this habit of moving to the next as soon as the time is up is something which you need to really, really focus. You must have the guts to leave something and move on. Do not get carried away or tempted or get scared that, oh, I just need 5 minutes to complete. You will be moving towards disaster. Okay. If you just spend 5 minutes extra on 4 or 5 questions in total, it means 20 minutes extra you have spent, and in the end you will not be able to complete your last question. So get into the habit of moving on to the next thing as soon as the time is up. Very, very important. That's why I highlighted in red. The third thing we talked about is the format. We have to use paragraph style of drafting. Okay, avoid bullet style. One para should just be 1 point. Try and leave one line between each paragraph. It makes it visually pleasant for the examiner. Look for stress words like significant, extremely, very, and use tabular format for weakness and recommendations. Okay. And the last technique was first hour and last hour. We just spoke about it today. So in the first hour, just make sure that you stop reading as soon as 60 minutes are up, and you prioritize your reading. You read the multiple exhibits first, like big exhibits first, like board minutes and annual reports and interview transcripts, and then you read the smaller exhibits later on towards the end. On the last hour, you need to decide the sequence. Very, very important. You will, in the last hour, you will first assess how much is left, and then you decide which topic, which part you think you would be able to do better. and then you go for that. You disturb the sequence, you prioritize, and you go for that part which is easy, so that in the end, if you are stuck with less time, you just miss that part which anyways you thought was difficult. Okay. um let me go through the questions. um Sir, can we mention exhibit number in the answer sheet? No. Okay, because your answers are normally reports, briefing papers addressed to the finance director. Exhibits are not supposed to be, exhibit numbers are not supposed to be mentioned in your answer. We have to pass each question with 50 marks? No. Okay, it's not like you have to score at least 50 marks in each and every question. It's not even practically possible in SBL, I think. So just focus on getting in total 50 marks. Some questions will be high scoring, like a presentation slide or weaknesses and recommendations. Focus more on them to score high, and some questions will just go above your head. So you will never be able to score 50 marks, 50% on those. So it's not like 50% in each and every question. Okay, so it's good news. Najla is saying usually one exhibit won't be used in other requirements at all. Are you crazy? I have been talking about this since last 3 days. Out of 6 exhibits, 3 exhibits will contain information which will be used in more than one requirements, and 3 exhibits will contain one-to-one information. So how come you are asking the same thing again and again? Sir, do we mention model name in the answer? Not really. You just directly apply the model. uh, no need to mention the name of the model. Okay, so any questions on the exam techniques? Shaza is asking, there are few exhibits where the data is overlapping in the answers. Will that be considered as a repetition? Okay, good question, Saja. Let me repeat your question again so that everybody can concentrate. There are few exhibits where the data is overlapping in the answers. Will that be considered as repetition? No. It is perfectly acceptable in SBL paper if you repeat points in more than one question. Okay, it will be, if you repeat point in the same question, then it is not acceptable. That will be counted as repetition. But if you repeat point in another question, that is acceptable. Obviously, the context is different. If you are repeating something, that is in another context, so that is the logic. So if you repeat point in another question, it is perfectly fine in SBL. Good one, Shaza. Aisha is asking, sir, you said that you don't need to read textbook. If I am weak at any topic, do I need to go through that particular topic in text or article? What do you suggest? Very good question, and I am sure most of you have this question. Let me repeat the question. Sir, you said you don't need to read the book. But if I am weak in any particular topic, do I need to go through to that particular topic in the book or article? What do you suggest? All right. So stay away from the book, okay? Because it will just give you over information, and it might shatter your confidence, because definitely the book contains over information about each and every topic. So the moment you flip through the book, you will go into an inferiority complex that you don't know anything, right? So stay away from the book. However, then in case you have any weak particular topic, I would suggest that either you Google, and YouTube is the best source. Okay, you just Google that topic and you would see uh, a lot of videos by a lot of renowned teachers on YouTube. So for example, if you know about big data, so you just write ACCA SBL big data. So what that will do is it will actually fetch those videos, in which those videos which are actually more relevant to SBL. So they'll be by actual world renowned teachers. So that will be better than going yourself through a book without a teacher. And if you don't get a video in terms of SBL, then you can also look for general videos on the YouTube. You just write basic knowledge of big data, and you will see a lot of videos. So just take an example of IoT. It sounded so difficult. Internet of Things, IoT. Wow. But so instead of reading the article or going through the book, I just went on YouTube. I just wrote IoT in simple terms, and I saw a lot of videos, and I selected the one which has the highest number of views. And in two videos, I was fully, up to date with what is IoT. So please stay away from book, use the technology. Okay. And one more thing which just occurred to me right now. I also have prepared my own notes. Okay. I saw a lot of comments on the WhatsApp group about sharing of notes from this source and that source, and ACCA India have their own notes. Similarly, I also have my own notes, and those are very, very simplified, and those have been prepared um, by looking at the BPP book. I have looked at the Kaplan book. I have looked at the LSBF notes. I have looked at the Open Tuition notes. I have gone through all the examiner comments, answers, past papers, P1, P3, SBL, specimen papers, YouTube, wherever I can lay my hands on the best information on that topic. I have used that to compile my notes, keeping in mind to keep them as simple as possible. So it just occurred to me that whether I should share my notes with you guys or not. I don't know. I don't know whether I am allowed to share my personal notes with you guys, because I am conducting this webinar on ACCA's on behalf of ACCA, right? So I cannot do my own marketing. That's conflict of interest. Do you agree? Okay. For me, the purpose is more important. For me, the to make sure that you guys pass is more important. What will happen to me? Maybe ACCA will not, allow me to take the next webinar. I don't care. So I will share my notes with you guys, maybe tomorrow latest, but don't tell to anybody. All right, let's keep it just between you guys and me, because my job will be at stake if some of you split it out. All right, cool. So I hope I answered the topic things with you. Okay. Let me go through more comments. Okay. So Furkan is saying in question of smartware, introduction has sufficient points to answer the first question. Absolutely, yes. This examiner is cunning, okay? He deliberately puts some information in introduction which you will not find in any of the exhibits. So you are actually expected to use information from the introduction in your answers. So in fact, you'll be able to get good marks. So please use information available in the introduction in your answers. Just a minute, guys. All right. Sorry, I'm back. Ba, 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 ba. Is there any new articles? No, we just covered the latest one. How can I access the recorded sessions? I will share all the recorded sessions tomorrow along with all the handouts in one go so that everybody can have it. You know, the problem is the new joiners, people who join the group later on, then they don't have access. So I'm just waiting for the classes to end, and by tomorrow I will share everything. I will discuss all the formats. WhatsApp group I will share. We are appealing. Okay. Now, question. Do you do exam kits? No exam kit. I will talk about all these things. Now, Midat is asking a very good question, and someone else as well asked the same questions. Uh, what to do if the requirements are tricky? How to handle such questions? So let me repeat the question. What to do if the requirement is tricky? Okay, and how to handle such questions? Hmm. Do you think this problem will be faced by most of you? Do you think this problem will be faced by most of you? That you may expect a question which just flies above your head and you have no clue what to do? Absolutely. Boys and girls, in SBL, every attempt you will find one particular question which will just throw you off. Okay, I have not yet seen any attempt in which all the questions were straightforward. At least one question would just make no sense. It could be for any reason. Maybe the topic is very strange, you haven't heard of that topic, or there is no information or very limited information available, or the marks for that particular question is way high as compared to the amount of information which is available. So Shaza is saying, I have attempted 6 mocks, and every time there is one question that gets me wondering how to handle it. Absolutely, I agree. So the first thing, you should be mentally prepared to expect at least one question which doesn't make sense to you. Okay, if you are mentally prepared, just keep your eyes open for such a question. You should be able to spot or identify that question which it doesn't make sense to you and you think that this will screw you. You should be able to identify that. So the first thing is you should be mentally prepared. You should be on the lookout for such question. Now, how this will help is that that if you are mentally prepared and you 100% expect that such a question will come, then at least you will not panic. Okay, that's the first thing. If you see a question which doesn't make sense, you know that this is part and parcel, this is gonna come. At least you will not panic, you just look forward to it. The second thing is normally normally such question is the second last question. Normally, not all the time, but most of the time I have noted that tricky questions are either the second last question. It's generally towards the end, third last question, second last question, or last question, but most of the time it was second last question. So once it is towards the end, then the golden rule applies. And you remember the golden rule, the first hour and the last hour. So if that bad question is towards the end and it falls into your last 1 hour, then you have this benefit of pushing it towards the end. Okay, you first do the question which is easier, and so that in the end, in case you run out of time, what you missed was something which you already didn't knew how to handle. So that's second thing. Now let me give a classic example of couple of attempts back. There was a nasty question on disruptive technologies. Okay, so in that question, they were like, the last question was question number 3. Okay, there was 3A and there was 3B, and 3A was disruptive technology and 3B was some slides on risk management. 3A disruptive technology was 18 marks and 3B risk management was 15 marks. Okay, so in that attempt most students failed because the question on disruptive technology was the second last question. It carried 18 marks, which is really heavy duty. So they spent extra time trying to save, trying to manage or handle that question. And because they were so engrossed, they were so concentrating in trying to save this question that they didn't notice that their time was up for that question. They continued writing, and in the end, when they finished that 3A, only 10 minutes was left, and the last question 3B on the risk management was actually the most easiest question of the entire paper. It was high scoring and they all missed it. So what happened is, um, people, they did not score on disruptive technology, and but they and they missed doing the last question which was on risk management because they ran out of time. So it was a double impact and they all failed. Okay, so to cut the long story short, if the tricky question is towards the end, then you need to be smart. Then you push it to the end. You first do the question which is easier, and then keep the last few minutes for the tricky question. Now, how do you handle a tricky question? I'll just show you. How do you handle a tricky question? You can do 3 things. For example, in that question which I am talking, it was about disruptive technology. It was, I think, Highlight Hotel. Okay, this was 18 marks. So the topic is easy. What is disruptive technology? So Aisha, I'm talking about Highlight Hotels. I think it's for December 2018. Let me open that. You want to see? No, I don't have it right now. So Highlight Hotels. What is the meaning of disruptive technology? It simply means new technologies which are kind of affecting the traditional business models. So in hotel industry, something like Airbnb, something like smart keys and apps are kind of disturbing the traditional hotel industry. Okay, so the problem was with that part was it was 18 marks and no sufficient information was provided worth 18 marks. So how do you handle a question in which you, so first thing is you, what did I just write? You define and give real life examples if possible. Mind you, a word of caution here that there is no marks for definition in SBL. Okay. But then also keep in mind that this is a question you don't know how to handle and you need to fill some space because it is worth 18 marks. So just that you don't look idiots, you start by defining what disruptive technology is. Okay, so fill like half a page on disruptive technology, then you mention current status. Okay, so in the case there was some information given about what Highlight is doing and how there were certain keywords like technologies and this and that. So try to fill up what is the current situation. Here you will be actually linking with the exhibits, right? And then third, you actually come and answer the requirement, which is disruptive technologies. um, Let me see whether I can quickly get that question. Past paper. No, back. SBL past papers. Come on. Highlight. Here. Let's see the question. 3A. Ah, 3A, 18 marks. 3B, 15 marks. 3A, the chief business analyst has asked you to write a report for the next board meeting which discusses the potential challenges to highlight posed by the development of the disruptive technologies which are emerging in the hotel industry. So you need to discuss the challenges posed to the highlight. Okay, come on, potential challenges and highlight the potential application. Two things: discuss the challenges and the potential application. The problem is it's 18 marks and with skepticism skills. So if you want to fill space, first you define what is disruptive technology, then you talk about the current situation, what highlight is facing, you talk about the potential challenges, give a heading potential challenges and write couple of paragraphs, and then give a heading potential application. Okay, and then you fill up space like that. But bear in mind that the most important thing, the most important thing in case you don't know the answer is time management. It's fine if you don't know the answer, it's fine if you are shooting from your hips to save the answer, it's perfectly fine. But what's not fine is you are spending extra time on it. That's not acceptable. So in answers which you don't think, you actually tend to spend more time because you're trying to save that answer. Don't do that. As soon as the allocated time is up, then you move on to the next question. Okay, and hopefully if this is towards the end, then you will have some time, you can push it as last question. Okay, let me look at more questions. I failed last time, and I think that was the main reason I ended failing. Okay, I have attempted 6 marks. And sir, if I write on fact with impact in 10 lines in single para, so I can get 2 marks as you mentioned. 1 mark contained 5 lines. Nawaz, I never said 1 mark. Oh, 1 mark is 5 lines. Yeah, and yes, you're right. Yes. Hamza is saying these type of questions we should attempt at last. Right, I agree. From which exhibit we can link this question? There are certain. There is a particular exhibit in this one. It is. It's mentioned. It is in the. It is. It's mentioned in the question actually. At the most recent board meeting, you see this, the opening sentence. So you will go to the board meeting exhibit and you will see words which will help you. Okay. Ethics module mandatory before exam? Not at all. Please throw away the ethics module. Talk about it later on. Right. So now, since we discussed the exam topics, I want to recap the professional marks. By now, I'm sure you know all this. It's just a quick recap. How can you score more marks in evaluation? You just talk about, include both pros and cons in your answer. Analysis skills, you have to investigate reasons, okay, root causes. And if a financial spreadsheet is given, then analyze the numbers in detail, linking with the case. Okay, so if your financial statement is given and you have to do a ratio analysis, then write the commentary, give the reasons why the numbers are moving. Communication, how do you score on good marks on communication? First of all, make sure whatever format is required, you have to be, give a very nice format, and then the tone of your answer. So if you are drafting a press release, your tone will be different. If you are writing to the chairman or a NED, your tone will be different. And if you are writing to the finance director, your tone might be different. Okay. Commercial acumen, just don't use financial or accounting terminologies. Okay, use words like market share, comp edge, opportunities, threats, risks, etc. Skepticism, I think this is the most difficult one. In this, you have to use a negative tone in your answer. Use words like I disagree, seems incorrect, not clear, further investigated. Okay, use a negative tone. Right. So here we are done with the professional skills. Formats. Report format. We have done that. To, from, subject, date, introduction. Briefing paper, briefing note, or memo. All these are the same thing. Sometimes the examiner says write a briefing paper. Sometimes he says write a briefing note. And sometimes he says write a memo. So it will start with FAO. FAO means for attention of, from, subject, date, and then opening sentence, but without the heading of introduction. Okay, very, very similar to the report format. Presentation slide, we just did it today. That's the format. Okay, just have a quick look in 5 seconds. Okay, and then one time there was a letter. So a letter, on the right hand side, you write your name and address on the right top corner. On the left hand side, you write the addressee and the date, subject, and then respected sir, and then you start. Okay. Letter format. Take a quick look at it. And then there's a press release. So we also did a question on press release, remember? So the heading would be a press release or a website release, as the case may be. Subject, and then from. A press release is generally to be from the CEO or the chairman. Okay. And then the name of the company. 3 lines. Subject, from, and company name. But do not write subject or from or company name, but just directly write without giving these subheadings. Okay. Business case. Now business case is something which is normally used in projects. We have to write a business case. So far this has not been tested as yet, but just in case, if the question comes on business case, then business case has 3 broad headings. It first talks about the current situation or problem, then it talks about what is the proposed solution, and then it talks about the benefits of the proposed solution. Project initiation document, we have done that. Actually we did 2 questions on that. So these are the um, contents or main headings of a project initiation document. I'm sure you can recall them. And then if a question comes on weakness and recommendation, then you use this format. And similarly, if a question comes on risk and mitigation factors, again we use a tabular format. Okay. Now, what is this? List of important topics for last moment revision. So um, I need to be very clear that this is not the list of important topics for March 2020. Okay. It is such a general paper. If 50% is paper is general, it's difficult to produce a specific list for each attempt. So this is a list of, it's a generic list. And I think 80% of the questions will definitely come out from this list. So this is a list where you should focus in your last days. And by last days, I mean that you are already in your last days. Okay. So instead of expanding your knowledge, restrict your knowledge to these topics and models. Maybe you can add few more topics where you feel, but by and large your knowledge should be around these topics. These should be the topics which you should be revising between now and the exam day. So I've broken it into 2 sections, models and topics. So there are 8 models. Okay. Pastel, I think we did that. Porter 5 forces, we did that. SFA, Ansoff, Harmon, Mendello, these are smaller and relatively very easy models. You can do it on your own, or you can refer to my notes, which I will share. Cultural web, we did that. Context of change, again we have not done that, but you can refer to my notes and it will make your life easy. Okay, because the notes are pretty standard, pretty simple. Then topics, financial ratios and projections, we have talked about it. Project management and PID. Growth strategies like organic growth, acquisition, joint venture, franchises, you should be familiar with these concepts. You can refer to the notes. E-business, e-business or online business, what are the advantages, what are the disadvantages? straightforward. Outsourcing and shared services, you should be familiar with these words. CRM, customer relationship management systems. We haven't done that. Sorry. We haven't done that. We haven't done that. We haven't done that. We haven't done that. To you, all those things which we have not done, I'll make a list and then I'll guide you. Big data, professional ethics codes, public interest, we did that. NEDs, board committees, family owned, integrated reporting, social environmental footprints, risk management, control weaknesses. So what we have not done, because there was some time restrictions, we did not do. We missed Ansoff. What is this? We did not do these three things, and these things you can easily find them in my notes. Okay, these are easier topics, that is why I deliberately skipped that. So just focus on these topics, and if you want you can add 2 or 3 more topics, but do not expand more on the knowledge side. Now, what to focus in the last 2 weeks? Very important. Smart revision of selected topics. Okay, do not try to cover all topics. By all topics I mean the topics outside the list which I have provided. Don't over concentrate on models, just focus on the 8 basic models and 15. So there are 8 models and 15 topics. Just try and limit yourself. Do smart revision. That is why I said smart revision. Do not work hard, work smartly. But then after the smart revision, focus more on exam techniques. That's more important. Okay, and I have gone through extensively with you on the techniques, both theoretically, and I've also demonstrated that with in the various questions we did. And then practice the following questions. Do these questions. Okay, do specimen paper 2 Railco, specimen paper 3 NABI, specimen September 18 COFOL, and December 18 highlights. We have done certain selected parts from these questions, but then you now do them in full. Okay, and in writing, I don't want you to act like a CFO and just read and gather your thoughts. No, you solve them in writing. Okay, and then most important, let me highlight in red. Do I have a red? Come on. 2 mocks under exam condition. What do I mean by 2 mocks? Okay, by mocks I mean for you sit for proper 4 hour under exam conditions. Okay, and you just do these questions under proper exam conditions. Time yourself, no disturbance, no mobile phones, no water, no nothing. Just think that you are sitting in the ACCA examination hall. You should be, worried. Everything as similar to the real exam condition as possible. That is the meaning of 2 mocks. Okay, for example, what's the purpose of 2 mocks? Number one, you will make sure that you will find out whether you are using exam techniques. You will find out whether you are able to stop and skip, which You remember, stop and skip means that as soon as the time is up, leave space and move on. That is something which you have never done in the past. So it's easy to visualize, but it's very difficult when you're actually doing that. You stop the question in between and you move on. So you, under mock, you will test your skill of skipping and moving on to the next question as soon as the time is up. And lastly, but most importantly, stamina. SBL is all about stamina. The last hour is all about focus, concentration, not giving up. And stamina can only be built when you are on the racetrack. When you are running a marathon, I can teach you the techniques in a classroom, but I cannot build your stamina by teaching you techniques in a classroom. For a runner in a marathon, there is only one way to increase his stamina, and that he actually runs on the field. So for SBL, you need stamina because it is a 4 hour paper. And the only way you can build up your stamina and test your stamina is actual mock for 4 hours. Okay. So the mocks, people who don't do mocks under exam condition, 90% of them fail because when they go into the exam situation, they just don't have the stamina to do it. They have never put themselves under the dry run, pilot run phase. Okay. So, what to focus? So, in all of this, you focus less on knowledge gathering and more on practice and stamina. Okay. What to stay away from? At this point in time, stay away from the books, the revision kits, models other than the eight mentioned, and technical articles and whatever extra information. And what's the reason? The reason is very simple. You are now very late. So the books and revision kits are very nice resources if you start on time, like 3 months back. Now, if you are working students and you just have limited time to study, then this is not the right resources to waste your time on. Okay. It's not that the books and kits are garbage. It's just that your time management, your priority, you're gone. You don't have the time for these things now. So you are on a war footing. Okay. So you just follow on this slide, smart revision, and I will share my notes definitely. Focus on exam techniques, focus on building stamina, writing and mocks. Forget about books and kits. Now, so the key message here is, please do not overstudy. Please do not panic. Please do not overstudy. 50% of your paper is common sense, not coming from any specific topic. Okay. Rather, instead of overstudying, what you should do? Over practice. I want you to do over practice rather than over studying the topics. Okay. If you want to pass SBL, just do mocks and mocks and mocks. And when you do mocks, your topics will automatically be revised. Okay, you can remember those topics. If you've done a SFA question in your mock, and in case another SFA comes in your actual paper next month, you can actually relate, you can actually recall your SFA. It would definitely help you handle your question. So rather than reading books and notes, focus on practice. Practice will cover both things. It will make you revise, and it will build your stamina and exam techniques. Okay, right. So let me, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask me. Oh, Furkan, you are very sweet. Thank you so much. On my last comments to you guys, don't underestimate yourself. You guys are not dumb. Okay, if you have reached this stage, you do have some level of intelligence. And the reason why people struggle with SBL is, if I have to blame someone, I will blame the examiner, because they have upgraded this paper so much that all the rest of the ACCA papers, they are nowhere close to this paper. And they are testing you on all the other papers, and now this one paper they have upgraded it so much that there's a big gap between what you were used to doing and now this paper. They should have gradually upgraded your skill set and your experience. But having said that, this is the reality we have to face. So do not use the techniques which you are used to using in the other subjects. Okay, it will not work on this subject. Focus on the revised skill set, revised techniques which I taught you. You are not dumb. As long as you know the new techniques, you will be able to handle SBL. It's not difficult. And once you do 3 4 questions, you will know what I mean right now. Okay, so it's all about confidence, time management, and presentation. Walk into the exam hall like a CFO. Think that you are a CFO, you know everything about business, and you are a good consultant. And if somebody comes to you with a business problem, just using your logical head, you will be able to help that person. So, with that attitude, you will definitely pass SBL. Okay, so with that positive note, I would like to end today's last session, and I you can easily reach to me through the web, through the WhatsApp group. And for people who are not on that group, you can WhatsApp me here, and I would send you the link, and I would continue to help as much as possible till the day of the exam. But um, just again a word of caution that on the last 2 days I will just not comment on anything, because on the last 2 days things makes a lot of things, there's a risk that students get confused. So um, if I'm not answering someone, it might be a deliberate thing. It's not I'm ignoring it, but sometimes it's best to keep silent rather than trying to complicate the situation more. So excellent, guys. Stay in touch, and I do want to know how the paper was, and then more importantly your marks, and hopefully you all will pass. uh, Thank you so much for your time and your patience to bear my style and sometimes my anger. Thank you so much. Wish you all the best, and hope to see you soon with good marks. Thank you and good night.